I always start my episode with a fun fact. So in today's episode, I have a fun fact for you. Do you know the human heart beats about 100,000 times in a day? But if you're an Arsenal fan, your heart beats even more than that. And if you have broken heart, I'm sure your heart beats about 300 or 400,000 in a day. So that is a fun fact for you. How many beats does your heart go through in a day? So welcome to Black Coffee's madness. Welcome to Black Coffee's method in madness. And in episode 5 today, we are going to talk about wading through the mud. The first 4 episodes were mainly looking at how we started and where we are now. So the wading through the mud is basically going to look at it from after you've done your first fundraising, after you've gotten your first investor in, what next? So I still have my Rubik's Cube with me. I think I gave you a fun fact on the Rubik's Cube. I'm still struggling to even complete one side, one color. I know my boys at home will laugh at me when they see this video because they are able to do this in record time. But hey, they are young. They don't pay school fees. So what the heck? So the last episode 4, I talked about how we went through to be able to secure venture capital funding from a company called Green Tech Capital, which is based in Germany. And today we are going to look at, after the money came, what next? Now you move from the paper stage, the experimentation stage, getting your money in. What are you going to do as part of what you are going to do to grow the business? So right after we got our first funding, now it was time for business. And when investors give you money, after all the nice announcements, all the nice fanfare, etc., now they are looking for results, because every dollar that an investor puts in, they are looking for what they call return on investment. They are looking about 3 or 4x or 4 times of how much they put in. So you can't take the money and then go to Akosombo and start chilling. You can't take the money and then all of a sudden you are making it rain in the club, etc., etc. You can't do that because the money needs to be accounted for. You need to put proper structures in place. So if you look at what I talked about in the earlier episode, we hired the team. The team grew from the 2 co-founders to more from operational side to finance side, somebody doing bookkeeping, accountant, etc. So now came the part where your business needs to make money. And trust me, any business that you've set up, the ultimate aim is to be able to generate revenue, to be able to make money for the business to be sustainable. Unless, of course, even when you are doing illegal business, you still want to make money out of that business. So after we raised the money, the first thing was the business we're looking at doing, AgroCenta, is focused on smallholder farmers, farm activities. And what we had set out to do was to enable market access for smallholder farmers. And the market access is basically, in the rural communities, a lot of these farmers don't get market to sell the commodities. So they end up selling to middlemen at very cheap price. Sometimes they sell 40 to 50 below what the market price offers. And every year, farmers lose what we call potential income through this exploitation. So we have people who have money. They go to the communities and say, how much is a bag of maize going for? The farmer knows it's about 70 or 80 cedis, but then the middleman will give you about 40 cedis to be able to buy from you. The farmer at that point needs money. The farmer does not have excess capital to be able to look for a market. And trust, a lot of these farmers live very far from some of the immediate markets. So some of them will have to travel extensively. Some of them travel 10, 15, 20 kilometers to go to the market in the hope to beat a buyer. So when they don't meet all these people, they end up selling it cheap to these middlemen. So our platform was solving this issue of removing the middlemen from the value chain and then connecting farmers directly to buyers. So the buyers are mainly small, medium, and large players who need raw materials for production. And when we started, we were working in the grains value chain. So the maize, the soy, sorghums, etc. So now came the time that we needed to get our first client. So we spoke to our investor that, do you know anybody within this space that we can contact? So they mentioned that, we know somebody at Diageo. So that's Guinness Ghana Limited. Let's speak to him and see if they'll grant you audience. So they did. And then we had an email that, we have to follow up with that email. There was an introductory email between AgroCenta and our contact at Diageo. We followed up and then we arranged for a meeting. So Mike and I dressed in our best. We had our shoes, I shared this tagged in. We went for the first client or customer engagement. That meeting lasted not long. I think the procurement manager looked at us. These young guys, what can they do for us? Because Guinness at that point were working with very big players. These young guys who have come in, what can they do for us? So they decided to, okay, they like our Vim, so they decided to give us our first contract. So they mentioned, okay, the first contract we are going to give is going to be like a trial run, a trial contract. We need you to supply us with 500 bags of sorghum that we use to produce the alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. So we are going to sign a contract with you, supply us your first 500 bags. If you're able to do that, then we look at the long-term sign of the contract. We left the meeting very excited because we've gotten our first contract anyway. Hooray! What we didn't know was, Charlie, the sourcing of these sorghum was going to be problematic. So when the guy asked us, when do you think you can deliver? I think we were so excited. We said, give us 2-3 weeks. I know he was laughing at us when we left because he knew there was no way we were going to supply this thing within 2 or 3 weeks. So we left. And then I was telling Mike, now we have to find somebody who's going to supply sorghum. We need to now set up offices across the country where it will make sense for us to be able to work directly with the farmers. Because there was no value in, let's say, your office is in Accra, and then you have to commute from Accra every day to, let's say, to the Upper West to be able to meet suppliers. So we set up our very first office in Bogatanga. If you're in Boga, if you go to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture office, that's where our office used to be. We were on the 2nd floor. We set up the nice, pretty office. We got a 2 office apartment inside the MOFA building. We spec'd it. We put a lot of our nice logos, everything there. We got our first regional manager, Mr. Osman, who was a teacher retiree who came on board. He helped us be able to get some of our agents on the field. If you know Boga very well, Boga does not produce sorghum. The sorghum is produced in the Upper West side of the country, and Boga is in Upper East. So now we needed to go to Upper West to go and look for somebody who is going to supply us with sorghum. Then came the difficult part. Mr. Osman was able to make a few calls here and there, and then we landed on one farmer-based organization in Golu. Golu is in the Upper West region, is in the Upper West part of the northern belt, close to Burkina Faso. So we decided that, okay, now we need to go and see the supplier. We called him. His name was Bruce. He was a leader of the cooperative. Bruce said, hey, this is an exciting idea. We have farmers who produce this sorghum. We think we can supply you. But what you need to do is you need to bring us sacks for us to be able to use to put the grains in. Because if it's going to Guinness, one of the biggest things they look out for is quality, the quality of the grains that you're supplying to them. So, and for us, we also needed to get quality sacks because we've heard some sacks that were being sold on the market were inferior. You get to load your commodities in it. And then halfway through the journey, everything gets broken and then your grains spill. So we went to Polysac. Polysac is based in Spintex, and Polysac have been very good to us. We went to Polysac and said, hey, we need high quality sacks to be able to transport sorghum. They said, why not? We have all the sacks we need. We bought about 10 bales of sacks. So I think in the video you see an insert where we have to take the sacks to STC to transport to Boga, that we have to pick it up from there. At that point, we didn't have a car. Remember, my car has now gone kaput, so we were carless. So we had to take the sacks to the, to the STC yard. And then STC transported it to the Boga. The Boga people picked it up. And then we set out, so Mike and I, we set out to go to Boga. We picked the commercial vehicle. We traveled all the way from Accra to Boga. We went by STC. We left here around 5 p.m. We go to Boga around 6 a.m. So it was an overnight drive. It was one of the craziest drives ever. We got to Boga safely. We went to the office. And at that time, we had to stay in hotels. So we book a hotel, we stay, we have an office there. So then we asked Mr. Osman, Mr. Osman, we need to get hire a pickup to be able to transport our sacks from Boga to Golu, so from Upper East to Upper West. And then I think we got the prices of some of the vehicles, and trust me, they were very, very expensive. Charlie, we didn't have, our budgets could not really a Hilux, a pickup truck from, for a full day. I think at that time they were charging almost about 1,000 cedis for a trip and everything. Charlie, we were on a budget. Even though we have raised money, we are on a budget because there were so many things that we needed to do. So Mr. Osman said, hey, I know one guy who has an old pickup. He can take you, but you guys have to leave very early, especially around 4 a.m. Because his truck is quite old. And then before the sun comes up, you might get overheated. We said, why not? When they said it was quite old, I thought it was maybe a manageable pickup truck. We saw the truck in the morning and try. If you look, so you can see that in the video. I think they'll put that in the video. The truck was a beat down truck. It was as old as Methuselah. One of the oldest pickup trucks. I didn't even know. I think it was a Nissan or so. I didn't even know what truck it was. And it was a single cabin, which means Mike and I have to squeeze in front with the driver. For an old truck, there's no air conditioning, there's no climate control system, so it's free air blowing in your face. And if you know the route that goes from Bolga to the upper west region, you have to use a route that is mainly untarred. It's a lot of red dust. We set off at 5 a.m. This journey was one of the craziest journeys ever. We put in photos for you to see. We got to Golu around midday, around 12. We met Bruce. We gave him the sacks. And we needed to come back before nightfall because that route was one of the riskiest, or is one of the riskiest routes because it's really cut off. It's in some areas you will not even have settlement to see. So it's really going through a lot of dusty path, and it has a lot of armed robbers. So we even got to know that prior to us coming there, some of the metro mans that was plying that route got robbed. So we needed to move early. When we were coming back, it was the height of the heat around 2 p.m. And if you know the northern belt very well, you know the heat is not like what we experience in Accra. Accra people will experience heat of around 35 degrees and then it starts sobbing. If you go to the north, it's 40, 45 degrees. It's really hot. So we set off, and then midway overheating got us. So we had to look for water, and we didn't even have any water in the car. We had to trek around for about a kilometer to go to the next village to go and use a borehole to fetch water. And then we brought. Luckily, he had some of these gallons in the car. So I'm sure he knew his car would always overheat, but he forgot to put water in it. So there were gallons in the car. Along the way, we gave some women lifts in our old rickety Lamborghini. They were also, and that route is so isolated that I think it's a Metro Mars bus that goes back and forth. So if you miss that bus, you have to pray that there's somebody going along that route to give you a lift. So we gave our 5 women lift. They dropped in about the next 3 communities. Then we continued back to Bolga. So we got to Bolga around 6 p.m. And the car, even the headlights on the car was not working. So it was the reason why we had to come back quickly. The light was so dim that it was like you putting on a candle and then using it to see the road. We got it safely. Nothing untoward happened. The Bolga episode led us to set up other locations. We went to Techiman to meet the Techiman maize group. At that point, we were on an aggressive growth strategy. Charlie, we need to get all these commodities to be able to supply it. So at the Guinness point also, they mentioned that can you also add maize to the sorghum? We said, oh yes, you can get a maize. So the contract was for maize and sorghum. The sorghum was going directly to Guinness. The maize was going to a Guinness partner who does the processing for them, based in Ashie, they call it Oseboba. So it was a 2 grain contract that we're looking at. So we had to go to Techiman. We met the Techiman cooperatives. We were looking for ways to source for maize in large quantity. We told them about our platform, etc. And then they hit us with the price. The price was ridiculously high. We couldn't do anything in Techiman. We moved to Edra, Amanting, all these areas, Kwame Danso, at Tebubu. We're scouting we set up an aggregation center in Edra, Amanting. So aggregation center is mainly more like a satellite office for AgroCenta, where we have a team of people there who work at the farmers who source for these grains, put these aggregation centers, process it and then ship to Guinness, etc. Then we even added a farm plates. So at that time, I think this was around 2018, 2019. We've set up about 5 different aggregation centers across the country where it was now feeding into getting supply directly from the smaller farmers and then feeding into the demand. We had to do a lot of things to be able to ensure that managing these resources was very tight. And the key component of this was your human relations. Now you set up satellite offices across the country. How do you ensure that all these people believe in the vision, all these people believe in the dream, all these people are working at optimal position to be able to ensure that the company's vision, the company's mission is able to be achieved? And the people we got were super, super, super instrumental. I'm always grateful for having one of the best employees at AgroCenta, who are very dedicated to helping that we were able to do what we set out to do. So that came in, and then we set up our 5 or 6 different aggregation centers, all buying from farmers and supplying. So guess how long it took for us to be able to fulfill the first contract that was for the sorghum. From the 2 weeks we promised, it went to 2 months, and the grains left Upper West region, Golu. It came to Guinness, and the first instance our grains were not rejected. They took it in, and that set the ball rolling 4 other contracts that they gave to us. So I think this is mainly, we look at how we've been able to persevere through some of these challenges, going through dangerous terrains, meeting people to ensure that we're able to realize the dream that we set for ourselves. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about how from this we decided to have a come up where we're going to scale incrementally. Be good and have a good one.